Okay, here we are, live from Hong Kong. Welcome to Master Your Money. And I want to see who's here on the chat. I've got folks from Hong Kong for sure. Anyone East Coast US? Anyone from London, from UK? I know some of you said you're signing in, so hopefully you're here. It's my first time doing this live with me, your host, Lachlan Campbell. Nice to see you. Welcome to my studio. I've got my new little neon sign up there, and we're good to go. So yeah, let me know where you are, who's on, where you're from. So I have to give a little disclaimer. And, this is not financial advice. I will not be making investment recommendations, cannot do that, not in this space. So it's really about your questions, and please don't ask me to do any tax advice on here, and I can't give investment recommendations. So just be mindful of that. So the format today, I'll just introduce myself quickly, introduce the company. What is Mad Success? What do we do? Why are we here? And I'll talk a little bit about money and kind of your financial life plan, financial life journey for about 10 minutes. And then we'll do a Q&A, and that's what you're here for. Ask your questions. So please start asking them in the comments, and I'll get to those in sort of first come, first serve order. And then I've got a lucky draw at the end. So very Asian style, keep you till the end for the lucky draw so you see what it is. So thank you for being here. My first ever live broadcast. And I just kind of feel like I'm talking to myself. So it's a little funny, but so who am I? Lachlan Campbell. I've had a 30-year career in financial markets. I'm a former chief executive and chief operating officer for multi-billion-dollar investment companies. I have a degree in economics. I'm a qualified Canadian chartered accountant, and I'm a former investment manager, investment analyst. I run a successful, I think, real estate investment company. It's a passion of mine. And bottom line is I speak what I call the languages of money. I speak accounting, economics, investing, finance. The big three are accounting, economic, investing, and that's what impacts your life. So why Mad Success? Look, it is my purpose business. I've been doing finance for 30 years and researching for a long time, why we're not taught money in school. And I want to do something about that. And so I've left my full-time employment. I am here trying to build this thing up, and I'm live for you to answer your questions. It is my why. Financial stress is the number one cause of mental health problems. Anxiety, stress, depression. COVID has made it even worse. And the statistics that I've looked at and read about over the years shows that 70% of Americans, I know we're not all we're not American, but at data point, 70% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. Adults, 70%. It's crazy. And much of that is because we're not taught how to look after money in school. I really believe that. The other element here, and I've got a great crew of people, and Beatrice and Posse, a shout out to you. Thanks for being here. 80% of women end up alone at some point later in their life. 80% of women, that's from gray divorce, gray hair, and from death of their partner before them. So they end up alone. And in many cases, more than 50% of these women don't know the status of their family finances. And maybe they were working at home, or they were the parent at home, and they never learned about it. And so then all of a sudden they find themselves in their 60s, 70s, 80s having to look after the money. Where is the pension? Where is the debt? Where is where is all the money? What properties were owned, and so on? If there was a family company, maybe I've never participated in it. So these are stresses. These are big stress points. And COVID has exacerbated with job losses, business closures, people getting their salaries cut, people getting their contracts cut. And it's been really, really hard. And so that's something that I really focus on at Mad Success, is how to help reduce people's financial stress. So what Mad Success is about, is empowering people to take control of their lives first, and then their money second. but it really goes hand in hand. So what is MAD success? Why MAD? So MAD stands for the MAD, which you can see behind me here, mindset, attitude, discipline. These are what I've discovered over my course of my career and my life are the three key ingredients that lead to success in my life. Resilience, how I've bounced back from job losses, the death of my parents, divorce, these kinds of things, the stuff that are the challenges of life. And when you combine what you want in life, what you want, your goals and dreams, when you really look at what matters to you in your life, most of this stuff has to be financed. And so that's where having a financial life plan as part of your life journey, what I call your financial life journey, that's what's so important. But the problem is we don't talk about money. We don't talk about money as our societies. It's whether it's shunned or it's too polite or it's cultural. You know, at home, at work, with our friends, families, colleagues, most people aren't chatting about, well, here's what I earn and here's my debt. And we're not comfortable with it. And mostly I think it's because we don't really understand how to express the languages of money. You didn't study and become an accountant, perhaps, like I did. You didn't take a degree in economics like I did. You didn't spend, nearly 30 years in investment like I did. So I speak languages and I'm here to help you figure out how you can move forward best in your financial life journey. So, bottom line, we lack confidence with money. And when you think about money and you think about these languages, they are that. They're a language. You have to study them. You have to learn about them. And it's a lifelong process. Now, if you're in your 50s or 60s, you've got, time's getting shorter. And it's really about getting focused. Whether you trained as a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, or you worked for a dentist, or you worked in shipping, or you worked in transportation, you learned to speak the language of that, right? Whatever it was that you have done, maybe, as a stay-at-home mom, you learned to speak the language of kids and education and schools. That's my kid's mom does that. I didn't really get into it. So these are different languages. So we need to know the languages of money: accounting, economics, and investing. But it sounds very overwhelming. So with Mad Success, what I'm trying to do is simplify all of that and really put together a program and plan for you to be able to start learning the basics in an easy to digest, easy to understand way. So one of the things that comes out of all of this is we become nervous. We're stressed, we're fearful, we're frustrated about money. And money overwhelms. Maybe we grew up with parents that didn't talk about it at all. They were in debt. Maybe, I have a client whose father was, in jail most of his life, and there was debts. And I have another client who, really struggled with moving between homes with divorced parents and never really understood, how things were paid for, or how to. No one talked with her about, how to even consider what to do with money when she graduated and went on to start working. And it's so common. We all face it. I faced it. My dad used to talk about, never a saver never a borrower or a lender be. Don't lend or borrow money. And, that was one of his things that he shared with us as kids. Did I listen? No. I have made so many mistakes in my life. And if you've seen any of my videos, I opened the kimono, and a lot of my friends have said, why are you being so transparent? Well, that's how we learn. We learn from mistakes. I want to share my mistakes so that you don't repeat them, or at least you can start to look at how to reduce your stress and minimize your mistakes by looking at what can be done. So, financial education, there's a ton of it on the internet. Lots of free, great websites, lots of low pay but really good advisory sites like Motley Fool is one. I'm not sponsored by anyone I mention here. So, Motley Fool is a US program. You can buy their research. I subscribe to some of it. I use another group, a little bit more expensive, called Maudlin Economics. They provide me with a lot of sort of stock tips, but market assessments, big picture assessments, what's going on with Ukraine or China and so on. And if you're not inclined to want to study the markets, to want to study about corporates or about what's happening in the world, if that's not your sphere and you don't really want to learn that, then, I'm not going to say don't, but at least then simplify, stop stressing, and start looking at a plan that works for you, which is more investing in broad index funds, mutual funds, things that are safe, but ideally get yourself a financial planner. I'm not a financial planner. I am a financial coach, but I can help you to reframe and look at where are the problem areas in your life. What are the things that are holding you back? Where are the triggers? What are the things that are causing you perhaps to overspend every month or to take on debt? How to create a debt repayment program, how to build an emergency fund. What do you do with that? And so on. I can do all of that. But I'm not plugging those things. What I'm trying to say is you can help yourself, and it doesn't have to be overly complicated. So I would like to have a little audience participation in the comments. On a scale of 1 to 10, how financially stressed are you? So if you can put in the comments, on a scale of 1 to 10, are you a 2, a 5, an 8? How stressed are you? 10 being like max stress on money, 1 being I'm in an awesome place, and frankly, I'm not sure why I'm here. So if you could put in the comments. Oh, we've got some folks, more people here from Hong Kong. Great to see Jonas, Florence, Edsel. How are you, buddy? Thanks for lunch today. Let's see where you're at. Seb, an 8. You are max financially stressed. We need to talk. Who else? Beatrice and gang. How are you guys? What's happening with your financial stress? Beatrice is an 8. Okay. Anyone else? Keep them coming. I'll keep going here because I know we're short on time. But I'd really like to know if you could put in the comments where you're at. It's really helpful to me to understand, what's happening with the audience here and kind of how I can direct my questions and answers. So let me just talk a little bit. I'm going to share an overview about how I look at money. And in a way, I've just talked for 5-7 minutes on kind of how I just give you a bit of an overview. So you have money that comes into your life, obviously, and money that goes out. And what happens in between happens right here inside your head, right? Our money mindset, how we think about money, how we act with money, our impulses, our fears, our stresses, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I don't understand accounting, I don't understand economics, I don't speak investing, I don't even know how to start, I'm 45 years old, I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, well, we beat ourselves up about this. Okay, so be in the moment and just accept where you are without the fear of the past and the stress of the future. Let's just get grounded now. What's going on with your money is really what's going on in your mind. Okay. And it's about education, but it's also about, where coaching comes in is to really help you be present and accept where you're at so that you can then build from that and understand where you're at and then find a path forward for your financial life journey. So there are 6 key areas in money that I look at, and I'll repeat these again. This video is going to be on YouTube, so you can come back to it. But if you want to write it down, what I see as part of your financial life journey, there's 6 key areas. 1 is your goals and dreams. What matters to you in your life, right? Goals and dreams. Then comes the income, what's coming in. So when you left high school or you left college and you started working, or maybe you were working during those times, you started getting income. And then from there, you either just started spending, which is most likely, or you then started saving. So we've got goals and dreams, income, then saving, spending, investment, and then we can talk about number 6 would be debt. Okay. So those 6 things, yes, there's all sorts of things about retirement and all that, but really they're all baked into that. To keep it simple, it's goals and dreams. What's the vision? Income, saving, spending, investment, and debt. Okay. So how you manage these areas in your life is really around what is your life plan, your financial life plan. So let's talk about the flow of that. So if we started with a clean slate as of today, and we did a fresh start, no matter what's going on around you with debt or other things, what matters most in your life is really what you value, right? And if you're looking at your values and if your life and how you're living your life is aligned with your values and you know what really matters, then you can design life goals and dreams in alignment with what really matters for you. And if you don't have that yet, that's something that you'll need to sort out. And that's where coaching can come in. So most goals and dreams, when you think about it, need to be financed, right? So our life path needs to somehow be financed along the way. And this is where we get stressed because we have our bad spending habits and so on, and we get into debt and we're not financing where we want to go. So the first thing we need to really think about then is, what are our goals? What are our dreams? And how then, are we living based on our values and what matters to us? So these goals and dreams for younger people and for older, it could be things like around marriage, university, going back to university, or setting up for your kids for university, travel, buying another house, or buying downsizing, and how are you going to do that? And if you're moving overseas back from Hong Kong, or you're moving across country, how are you planning for that? Retirement, children. These are all typical, life goals, life dreams that need to be financed in some way, shape, or form, right? So you have to have financial life goals. You have to know what they are, what your life goals are, and then you create a financial life plan around that, okay? So once you know what your goals are, you then have to look at your income. Okay, what is coming in, and is it enough? Is it not enough? And then you start looking at, well, with income, you have a choice. You can either save it or you can spend it, right? Or you sit on cash, which in a way is a form of saving. So you can either save it or spend it. You're always going to choose saving first. You've heard this before, I'm sure. Pay yourself first. Okay, it's so important. Ideally, you're paying yourself if you can afford it, but really that's what you need to aim for, is sort of 20% minimum. And if you're going to do a big sigh, no, there's no possible way, I can barely do 5, okay, well, then what you have to look at is, what are you spending on? How much debt do you have? Your debt service payments, how are they impacting your inability to save upwards of 15, 20, 25%? Because that's where you need to be. It's just the bottom line, especially if you're in your later years, if you're 45, 50, 55 beyond, you've got to start putting it away. And this is where the stress comes in, isn't it? So just let's shift this a little bit and say, okay, so we pay ourselves first. When we save, that also includes investing, but we'll talk about that separately, because there's a whole way with which you need to look at your saving versus your investing. We have buckets, right? In savings, we have emergency funds, we have long-term savings, we have maybe saving for the goals I mentioned: travel, a house, marriage, children, university, a car, etc. These are different buckets. Emergency fund is always first. You need to have emergency cash, and this should not be invested. Why? Because if an emergency happens today, you get in a car crash or something happens, you need the money. It can't be invested and put against volatility in the market. You need it today. Then you have your long-term bucket, planning for the future. That can go into stocks and higher risk type investments, because you're meant to put it in, set it and forget it and put it to work. Then you have everything else. But you have to decide, what is the timing need? So whether that's getting married or saving for a house or other goals that you have, travel, car, so on, when do you want to purchase that by? And that will determine how much risk you should put that money towards, right? So how do you put that money in the bucket of, say, marriage? Well, if you're younger, if you're 28 and you don't want to get married for 5 years, you could probably put that money then in the stock market. But I'm not saying that's necessarily what you should do. You have to decide if you're okay with the volatility of the market. And given where the market is now, with rising inflation and rising interest rates, volatility is coming. So for me, and how I look at reducing stress, you don't want to be timing the market. You don't want to be worrying about it. You want to be getting into index funds and getting into investments in mutual funds and other investment funds where you can put it there and leave it and not have to stress about it. And ideally, you're investing on a regular basis. You've heard of dollar cost averaging. So markets up, markets down, you're still every month putting money into it, into your savings, into those investments, and you're not concerned about where the market is, because you're constantly putting money towards these goals. Okay, so your investment decisions really are based on these buckets, and Then after that, you really need to look at your spending on needs. So after you've decided on your saving, then it's spending on needs. That's housing, utilities, clothing, transport, food. Those are your needs. How are you spending on those? Are you spending too much in housing? Are you spending too much in transportation? Instead of taking public, you're driving to work, spending, you know, 400 pounds, 4,000 Hong Kong a month on parking because it's convenient. Well, in Hong Kong, there's great public transit. Okay, well, I don't want to take that. I want to get to work quick and get home quick. Fine. But is that money better used building up your savings if you're stressing about money? Look for ways with which you can cut how much you're spending on needs. My example, I moved from Shushan Hill, paying close to 100,000 Hong Kong a month. That's 10,000 pounds a month for rent, utilities, everything. I'm now in Big Wave Bay near Sheko on the south side, and my rent here is 25,000. So I have cut my expenses over the last 6 months by 70, 75%. And that's a lifestyle choice because I haven't had income for over 18 months and I needed to radically adjust. And I'm okay with that. And, it's changed, how I look at my life and how I operate. And that's okay because I'm now trying to build mad success for what I really believe in as my purpose led business. Okay. So looking at your needs and what you're paying for, that's a decision you need to decide on. Maybe less travel. Okay. We have because of COVID, but pre-COVID, so many people I know complained about being broke, but they were going off to Bali and they were going off to Phuket and 3 times a year back to their home country, and they don't have any money. Okay, so who else? Who do you blame but yourself? Okay, so what happens is with our spending is we then get into our wants, the things that are unnecessary expenditures that we haven't budgeted for, we haven't planned for. Our wants are the things that usually get us in trouble. Yes, we can overspend on our needs, but we all need shelter, we need food and clothing and so on. But our wants are really where we get into trouble because if we're not structured to save first, pay for the needs, and then whatever's left over goes to our wants, usually it's all reversed and upside down. We spend, yeah, okay, we pay our rent, but savings comes last. Savings can send me a message and let me know if you can still hear me and see me. That'd be great because mine is kind of flickering a little bit. Can you guys hear me still? And the YouTube looks like it's stalled. Anyone send a message through to let me know that they can still hear me? Hello? I can. Thanks, Seb. Okay, good. So I will continue on. Need to refresh. I think it's okay now, and it's good. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, so what gets us into trouble is our wants, right? And that's ultimately where we start spending beyond our means because we start using credit cards or buy now, pay later schemes, which is the latest thing getting especially younger people. But we get into our debt and we get into trouble and we start living beyond our means. And the next thing you know, next month when the paycheck comes in, instead of putting money into the bank and saving and investing and then paying needs and what's left over as wants, we start having to pay our debt. And we start having to, and what is allocated for future savings and for our goals goes into debt, credit cards and other things that we shouldn't have bought. In the States and Canada and places, you move to a new house and it's like, oh, I got to have the new car to go with the new house. And I need the new TV to go in the big living room. And I need the new, this and that furniture, whatever it is, right? And now you got a terrace in the back. Okay, we got to go buy all that stuff. And it's usually on credit. And often these companies in the States will be like, okay, buy now and don't pay for another 2 years, right? And then these payments start hitting and you forgot about them and it's painful. So debt is a really big one. Some debt is necessary. Maybe you needed to pay, get loans for university. And certainly you probably have a mortgage for a home. But it's the stuff, the bad debt that we're spending on just stuff. We want to, rent bigger, buy bigger, do these things, right? Travel more, it's all on credit. It's all on debt. And that's the stuff where self-discipline, that's the discipline in MAD, the D, discipline, having a financial life plan. And this is, this isn't sexy. This is not sexy stuff. This is just basic, common life management. And most of us, I didn't do it for years. Most of us haven't. And that's maybe why you're here, right? Because you're struggling with that. So let me just talk quickly about investment buckets. I want to get on, I'm just looking at the time. I want to get on to the Q&A. So mentioned investing, it's the different buckets. Definitely, you must have an emergency fund, and that should not be invested in the markets. People say, oh, well, you should invest it because inflation's going up 7%, 10%. No, you need that emergency money today if there's a problem. Look at COVID, how many people lost their jobs? And if they only had a 3 or 5 or 6 month emergency fund, they would have been okay until they found their next job, right? So emergency funds should not be invested. So, and if the inflation argument comes in, you say, okay, at the end of the year, I'll increase it by the amount of inflation, and I'll just ratchet it up every year for the amount of inflation. Then you have your other buckets. And again, this is about timing. And those buckets are about timing. Is it 2 years, 5 years? The longer the timing to when you think you want to achieve that goal, the more risk you can take because you have more time for the markets to go up, right? Long term. And then you have your long-term bucket, which is for your saving for retirement or future business or what have you. And that can go into more what I would call kind of controlled but max stress, like going into the stock market for long term. Investing versus trading versus speculation. Crypto, to me, is pure speculation. Even the experts don't understand why crypto moves the way it does. So volatile, up and down. If you're trying to do get rich quick, you've come to the wrong place. I just fundamentally don't subscribe to it. Now, within the crypto domain, are there companies that are making money building, web version 3.0 and so on? Absolutely, 100%. And they'll be listed on the stock market. Maybe they've got coins out there. I'm not going into any specifics, but there are companies making money. But if you're buying crypto, it's speculation. If you're buying single stock, it's speculation, unless you are the person really wanting to do research into that company and really doing research into that sector and really understanding economics. And then it's still a bit of a guess. Try and understand where it's going, right? So trading is anything where you're trying to get in and out of the stock or in and out of the ETF and you think you can time and beat the market. You can't. No, you can't. Mutual fund managers, investment managers underperform the index. Statistics like 95% of all managers every year underperform the index. So why not just buy the index and then you can sleep at night? But then you're like, okay, well, which index to buy? Okay, world index. If you're in US dollars like we are in Hong Kong with Hong Kong dollar, you buy something like the S&P 500 index. If you're in the UK, you buy the FTSE 100 index. It just depends on your market and where, your currency exposures and how you want to be invested. But, that's something that we can speak about one-on-one if you want. So then we get back to money mindset. This drives all your decisions. And go back to where I said, money in, money out, it all comes up in here. You've made mistakes. Okay, be present with those mistakes, accept where you are today for better or for worse, and start fresh. That's where mindset comes in, right? A growth mindset. Learn from your mistakes, try again. Now it's time to do something about it if you're financially stressed. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. And I went a little bit longer than I had planned. So I want to just do another little audience participation thing here. Of the 6 key areas in financial life journey, which worries you the most? Is it knowing what matters in your life, the goals and dreams, income, saving, spending, investment, or debt? And maybe you can just put down here which of those 6 things: goals and dreams, income, saving, spending, investment, debt. Just choose one. Which one worries you the most? I'd love to see, in your life, which one is heavy, because then I can start gearing videos and other things towards that to help you guys going forward. So once I see that we've got investment, yeah, Thank you. Anyone else? There's a bit of a delay actually on the, let me go into the comments on my StreamYard because they're a little bit faster than what's showing up. Saving, okay. Income, saving. Very good. Not sure if you guys can see each other's comments, but I appreciate you making the effort. So let's get into the Q&A. If you have specific questions, please ask me. Thank you, Beatrice. Investment. Yeah. Investment, income, saving, investment. Very good. Let me know your questions. I've received a few in advance. I'm happy to put those up if you want to. Two of them are around investing. One's around crypto. I've mentioned a little bit about crypto already. We've got about 30 minutes left. I'd love to take your questions and go from there. So here's one that I have. So someone asked me, for someone who has never invested before, where would you say is the best place to start? Okay, so I hope you guys can see that on the screen. I put out a video on how to get started investing, and my advice for how to get started with investing is to, first of all, you've got to know what you're investing for, right? So I've talked about savings. I've talked about having a life journey plan, financial life journey plan, right? You've got to know what matters to you. If you're investing, why are you investing? Is it, which savings bucket is it for? If it's just for long-term investing, then as I've said, I really strongly view putting into index funds, starting with broad index funds like S&P 500 or a global world index fund, okay? There's different kinds of funds. I'm doing a video that I'll put out in the next couple of weeks on what's the difference between mutual funds and unit trusts, ETFs, exchange traded funds. Basically, they all do the same thing. They are a collection of diversified stocks. Most will be tracking an index of some kind, and some cost a little more than others. Some are actively managed, some are passively managed, and so on. And I'll put that out there in a video. But what I would say is the best place to start is educating yourself on what it is that matters to you. What are your goals? Because your goals will define the time frame, right? If you have a goal to build up a deposit on a home, whether in Hong Kong or London or somewhere else, right? If you want to put a deposit together to buy a first home and you think you can achieve that over 3 years, you may want to be much more conservative with how you invest and buying into indexes and funds that are much less volatile. If you get into the lucky draw at the end, I can talk to you about that, and we can go from there. But bottom line is, it depends on what your goals are. So if it's just starting out, I highly, highly recommend index funds. I don't recommend crypto. Crypto is get rich quick. Crypto is speculating because we don't know what's underlying them. Bitcoin has nothing underpinning it other than the acceptance of it as the measure by which traders move in and out. Bitcoin is used to move in and out into other cryptocurrencies. It's now its only use. So if you want to go and buy Ethereum, or you want to go buy Ripple or Doge or whatever, and you want some sense of balance, you maybe leave your Bitcoin and go into this other one, you trade there, and then you come back, but it's pure speculation because you don't know what's going to happen with Bitcoin, let alone the other ones. They all seem to be kind of tracking the stock market right now because Elon Musk hasn't spoken. There's nothing, someone else hasn't spoken and influenced. But when one person can send it up 10% or down 10%, do you really want to risk your money that way? So my view is this: your core portfolio should be in investments that you can sleep at night with, that you don't even have to look at. Money is a tool. You need to start thinking of money as a tool for your life to achieve your plan, to achieve your goals and dreams. It needs to be a tool that's secondary to what your focus is and what matters to you in your life. And it's just there filtering in to help you move along your path where you want to get to. So if you're living today in hedonistic, self-absorbed spending, there's no one to blame but you. So how are you going to cut that back? How are you going to change your lifestyle like I did, moving from a big house to a smaller one, going from X amount to Y, right? And really cutting my costs. You have to do that if financial stress is a big problem for you and you're in a part of stage of your life where you're concerned you don't have any savings, you don't have investments. So it's really understanding what matters to you and why you act that way, why you behave that way. What are the ways with which you learned about money as a kid? What are the stories you told yourself about money? Most of us have what's called a scarcity mindset. Okay. So we're afraid to invest. I only have $5,000 to invest. If I put it in the stock market, I'm afraid it'll fall. And as soon as it falls, I'm going to sell out because I'm going to panic. That's behavioral finance. And that is because you're not viewing that $5,000 as a long-term investment where you put it into a index-based fund and you leave it long-term. One of the people that's on here today, I have known for more than 20 years. And I remember 20 years ago, he was putting money every month into mutual funds at the bank. He would put the money in religiously, and you didn't have auto pay back then, and the internet was only just starting. But every month he took a part of his paycheck and went and put it in. And today he's worth several $1 million. And I, respect that he's here. But he was consistent, diligent about it. This isn't sexy. This is just long-term planning. Now, look, if you're 55 and 60, I'm 55. If you're this age and you're struggling, then it's all about getting your debt under control and then really looking at how you can aggressively cut costs and really look at then how to put your money to work. Right? If you have a pot of money and you're uncertain what to do, then you really should get a financial planner to help you. But don't find a planner who's just going to push products at you. They're the worst. You've got to find one that you'll pay really for holistic advice without product push. The private banks are product push. The banks are product push. You need to find an independent advisor who isn't based on products that he's selling at you. Okay, it's really about finding someone who's going to sit down with you and look at your, $15,000 or $100,000, whatever your pot is, and give you some clear advice. Okay, and if you want to message me after, my email is ask@madsuccess.com. There's a few people I can probably recommend. Okay, I'm just looking at some other questions here. How to get financial planning advice that is not biased if you're not a high net worth individual? It's a great question. So there are a few around, and if you email me, I can put you in touch with some financial planners. I can help put a structure together for you if you want. We can sit down and go through that, and I can give you a summary of kind of how. Looking at what your situation is, how you can move forward, and then ultimately, you may want to get a financial planner. And there are people out there that aren't product pushing. What rhythm is a good hygiene to review investment? What rhythm is a good hygiene? I don't understand that question. How do you know how much money you'll need to retire comfortably? What's my number? I know it varies, but what is the basic rule? Well, Mary, it depends. Because how much money you need to retire will depend on how much money you're spending, right? So if let's say you live in Hong Kong, which is very expensive, and you move to London, which is very expensive, you're going to have to much higher level of retirement funding than if you were in, say, Calgary, Alberta, and you moved to somewhere like Liverpool or Hull or Newcastle. These are much lower cost centers. Do you own your home outright, or do you have to pay rent? Are you moving into a assisted living facility that's going to cost you $5,000 US dollars a month or equivalent? It really depends on what your vision and expectation of your future is. And that's where a financial planner with a financial model can sit down with you and say, okay, where do you want to be living? What kind of lifestyle? How much travel do you want to be doing each year? You say, you know what, I did 30 years of travel for work. I'm moving home to my home country, or I'm moving out of the big city, and I just want to camp and hike and be around in a smaller town. Like maybe you move into like a Boulder, Colorado, instead of being in Chicago or LA or these big expensive centers, right? I'm going to move back to BC in a few years to Vancouver, but I don't want to be in the city center. I want to be outside, kind of like how Big Wave Bay is to Central, right? I want to be within an hour of the city, but I don't want to be in the city. I want to have way lower costs. So, we can talk about that. I'm happy to sit down with you. And again, I can recommend a financial planner or two, but it really comes down to what is your vision and expectation of your future lifestyle. Okay, so where to go to educate yourself or your kids? Well, look, there is free information on the internet in spades. If you want to really start understanding terminology, investopedia.com has everything. Every definition under the sun, explaining how funds work, explaining how the stock market works, anything you want to know about accounting, investing, the languages of money, economics, Investopedia is an amazing free place to start. Okay? But you can also get free information from bank websites, from Motley Fool, like I mentioned. And if you go to any mutual fund site like Vanguard, Fidelity, Manulife, others, they have tons of free information about investing, about funds, and so on. That is a great place to start. But you have to be disciplined, and you have to choose to do that. Or if you have zero interest in that, fine, accept that. And don't beat yourself up about it, but go get a financial planner who's going to work with you to put a framework together for how you're going to move forward in your life. Okay? As a financial coach, I can definitely help you with that framework, but you have to be willing to have the discipline and really commit to these things. If you're going to continue spending and doing what you do, what people do, then how are you going to move forward with these visions for your future, right? So there's a real reckoning that has to take place if you're struggling. And you have to ask yourself, well, why am I struggling? If I'm 40 or 50 or even 60 now, and I'm really struggling and I'm financially stressed and I'm in debt and I don't have enough savings and I'm worried about my future, okay, well, what are you doing to sabotage your future today? What are the poor spending habits? What are the, how's the use of credit in your life impacting your future? These are the questions that you need to ask yourself. And you can do that with a financial coach or a financial planner or advisor. Okay. Once a year review every week really should be once a year. Maybe every 6 months when you're first starting, and do that with a financial planner or someone that can you work with. But it's really about set it and forget it. If you're saving for a shorter term goal, okay, that's a different. If you're saving for a 2-year goal, then check in on that. How are you doing for that? Where are you going? What else do you need to be adding in there? Are you paying off your debt? Are you putting up an emergency fund first, and then you're starting to save for travel or other things? And then what are you doing for the long term? These are all the different savings buckets. So deciding what your goals and dreams are, deciding what your vision is, and then how are you going to finance those? And the shorter dated ones you'll probably look at more regularly. And the longer one, ideally, you set it and forget it and you put the money to work. Okay. How are we for time? 7:44. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. How to get financial planning advice if not not a high net worth. Okay. Where to go once a year. Our vision is as far as we can imagine it. However, it is said we may now be living an extra 20 years from our parents' plan. Is the solution to keep earning working until way past 75? Well, again, it depends on your personal situation, right? So where is your saving and investment bucket today? How much do you have? What is your vision of your lifestyle? And assuming you live longer, let's say you live to be 90, 95, 100, maybe beyond, then yeah, you're going to need to understand how much more you're going to have, right? But very difficult. That's an actuarial calculation that someone could do for you, but really you need to plan kind of to, I would say, 90 years old, and then really look at, say, what kind of lifestyle do you want to have, right? If you become infirm at 82 and you live another 8 years, are you going to be able to afford private care, or are you going into public care, right? You can't plan for that today. It's too difficult. But what you have to really do then is just assess what is the lifestyle you want to be leading in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. For me, mad success, I'm going to do this as long as I can, right? So that's why I've really left corporate world, because of the stress and challenge of the emotion of all of that, to really try and now build something that I can look after for myself until I'm into my 70s. I'm happy to be doing that, right? I want to be challenging my mind and doing something that is, giving back, purposeful, that kind of thing. And I think most of us, that have spent a 30-year career already, want to start giving back. So I'm just going to have a sip of water. My advice is don't stress about living 20 years longer. My advice is start tackling today. What is happening today, and how are you going to plan to get to 60 and 70 and beyond, and what is the lifestyle that you want, and can you fund that? And really, that's where financial planning tools come in, and they have the software to be able to stress test and say, okay, let's say you live to be 100. Where are you today, and where are you going to be? What's life going to look like based on your vision of lifestyle? They're going to say, yeah, you're probably going to have to work until you're 70. And that's what that software can do. Okay, so financial planning software can really look at and project and say, okay, here's where you are today. And based on what you have today, here's the level of kind of lifestyle you'll be able to lead. If you want better than that, then here's what you're going to have to do over the next 5 years, 10 years to be able to achieve that. And that's where financial planning software is critical. And the earlier you start with that, the better off you're going to be. And there are people out there that'll help you, even if you only have $5,000 or $10,000. Okay, so should we read about investment behavior to avoid mistakes? Well, investment behavior comes from personal behavior, and it comes down to how do you view yourself? And this is coaching. I'm a trained professional coach, and it comes down to how am I being with myself, and why do I overspend, or why do I take on debt? That's stuff from childhood. That's stuff from how you learned about money, how you were taught about money by parents or friends or people, that maybe you spoke with over time, that influenced you in some way or another. But your behavior really comes down to who you are as a person, and what is causing you to behave the way you are. How are you being with yourself? The doing is a result of how you think, and how you think and how your emotions tied into that really drive what your behavior is, right? So um, behavioral finance is a well-researched subject area, and you can read about that, but truly it's more about looking into what is money mindset, how is your mindset about money, the scarcity factor, and where does that really come from? And that's where a coach or a counselor can really dig in for you to see, where you are today, what's driving your behaviors. That depends. If there was trauma from youth, that's counseling, therapy. If there's really just how you sort of learn to treat money, that's coaching, and we can guide you going forward. Maybe you need a bit of both. But that money response is, again, what I'm talked about here. It's about what's going on in your head, and that's how you think and how you look at money. That's something that should be coached or counseled. If you're over 65 and you don't have any retirement pension but only savings in a home, where should you invest your savings to receive some monthly income? Okay, so it's a great question. And so one of the things you can look at, depending on what your home is and where your home is, you could potentially rent out a room in the house. Maybe you could refurbish the basement if there's one and turn it into a suite and rent that out, and that becomes income in, especially if you don't have a mortgage anymore, or that pays for the mortgage, so it reduces your overall cost for the month. There are really three main ways to get what are called passive income, right? From investments. You have rent. If you own a house, how do you convert that house if you're living on your own and your children are gone and you're maybe you're not married, or if you're a couple, you can look at how do you convert that and make more money from it. You have dividends from stock, right? From stock ownership. So you could buy a dividend fund that pays out, or you buy single stocks, which I don't advocate, but some people like to do that, and you buy, you get dividends from that. And then there's income from bonds, right? Interest income. But bonds, as we know, aren't paying very much right now, and bonds have just gone through a 40-year bull market. And now with inflation and interest rates rising, bonds are selling off. So as rates rise, the price of a bond falls. It's an inverse relationship. So relying on debt income right now is really not available unless you're taking a much higher risk, like you're going down into non-investment grade or what are called junk bonds, and maybe you're getting 3, 4, 5, 6% there, but then you're taking on way too much risk, especially in the age you've suggested at 65 and over. You don't want to be in anywhere near non-investment grade junk bonds. Okay, so then you're really looking at two things. Well, three really. You've got rent potentially, you've got dividends, and then maybe a side gig, some other work. If you're 65, you've had a career, or maybe you've developed some skills of some kind over time, and you want to turn that into some kind of side gig, some sort of income stream. You're a writer or whatever it is that you want to make some extra money from. And really that's where it comes from. If you want to be retired and have passive income, then it's really about your house and whatever savings you have, either dividends or interest. Or if it's enough savings and you could buy a smaller property somewhere and rent that out, great. Then you've got more rent coming in. And I'm happy to chat with you about that, because I have a real estate portfolio that I love working with, and it provides some level of income coming in, and we can chat about that. Hi, Michael Roy. Phew, just made it. Hey, buddy, we got 7 minutes left. If I deal with money differently than my partner, should I create a financial plan on my own, or is it necessary to include your partner? I would always say it's necessary to have that conversation together. But if you've made your own money, and I know who you are, if you've made your own money, as I know you have, and he has as well, then decide what are your common goals, but what are your individual goals. And I would always recommend talking, really starting to communicate, even if it's stressful. You design, and I created a 3-part series on how to create goals, and it's all about going away for the weekend with your partner, or on your own, and really looking at what are your goals for the year and 5 years or 10 years. And I would strongly advise with your partner to do that. Always good. My mom had her own money. She had her own financial plan. My dad had a financial plan, but then they had a common shared bank account, and that went towards, on a sort of prorated basis. If one earned more than the other, then they would put money together towards common goals. So that's my thinking on that. I've watched the crypto episode a couple of times and understand your position on not buying cryptocurrency due to the current state. However, if you were to invest in a coin, which one is best? I don't give investment advice. You missed that, Mr. Roy. Okay, so for me, and it's not investment advice, if I'm going to put money into crypto, which I have done, I've dabbled, it's money I'm willing to lose. Okay, this is not my long-term investment money. This is pure speculative money. And I've put it into Ethereum, and I trade it. And Ethereum has an underlying business. Ethereum makes money. Bitcoin does not. Ethereum is also, as a business, a platform upon which many, many, many businesses, non-crypto, those that really need blockchain support and are designing blockchain systems, are basing themselves on Ethereum. So I like that because there's substance and I know there's income. There's something that potentially you can rely on for long term. And if you look at the growth of Ethereum, the number of people that are supporting Ethereum now is really rising compared to Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin will be dead at some point. It's still used as a safe harbor, as I mentioned, to trade in and out of other coins, but Ethereum actually has a business case. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, so for absolutely nothing at all. Look, man, it's speculation. So put money in it that you're happy to lose in case it goes to zero. If you're buying really sort of off-piste small coins where you think there's much higher percentage of going up, look, man, a lot of them have disappeared. A lot of them are gone, and many, many will go. Because a big risk with crypto now is what's going to happen with sovereign digital coins, right? What happens with the US really, brings on its digital version, or UK and others. And then regulation. Are they going to allow and regulate some of the top coins like Ethereum, like Bitcoin? I don't know. That's the risk you take. But it's, again, from my view, it's pure speculation. Matt Bell, good to see you here, buddy. No questions there. Did I miss any questions? Maybe I have. Should we read about investment behavior? Talked about that. Look, we're down to 3 minutes. I just want to first say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking through the show. It's my first time doing it. I'd love your feedback. My email is ask@madsuccess.com. First of all, is Thursday at 7 p.m. a good night? Tonight was bad because Hong Kong just opened up and restaurants are open till 10 p.m. for the first time in months. So it's probably bad timing. I get that. But would you rather have this on a Sunday afternoon? Would you rather have this on a Tuesday at 5? Let me know, please, by email. So now I have a giveaway. So for 3 lucky people, I need to enter the giveaway. You have to do a couple things. No free lunch. I need you to do 3 things. 1, subscribe to my YouTube channel, the Mad Success channel, if you haven't. If you already have, you're done on that. Follow me on Instagram, mad.success. Mad.success. Follow me on Instagram. And 3, email me, ask@madsuccess.com, what you liked about this show and any questions you have that weren't answered. And what I'll do, this offer is open for 48 hours. I'm going to choose 3 people that do this, and I will spend an hour with you for free, which normally I charge 2,800 Hong Kong per hour. I'll spend an hour with you for free to talk about where you're at today and any questions you have, and we'll go through your portfolio, and anything you tell me, of course, is bound by complete confidentiality. So that's it. 3 things. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, mad.success, and email me at ask@madsuccess.com, and we can spend an hour together going through your situation. On another kind of plug, if your company would like me to speak at an event or what have you on financial well-being or anything like this, or if you think they might be able to the learning and development or HR, I can design and implement financial well-being programs. I'd love to speak with you. So thank you very much. I am Lachlan Campbell, and this is Mad Success. Thank you.